We are going to discuss about BGP. So in this particular small lab, we will see how to configure the IBGP neighborship and the EBGP neighborship. As you can see in this scenario, this router, it is basically participating in AS number 100. Router 2 is also belongs to the same AS number 100. It means they belongs to the same AS. So the neighborship between R1 and R2 will be IBGP neighborship. But as you can see, router 3, it is sitting in AS number 200, which is not same as R2. So the neighborship between R2 and R3 in this case will be EBGP, external BGP peering. EBGP stands for external BGP neighbors, IBGP stands for internal BGP neighbors. So there are various ways of configuring the neighborship in both IBGP as well as in EBGP. So but in this scenario, we are going to use the IP addresses of the interface for both the scenario. But we can also configure the same thing with the loopbacks that we will see in the next slides. So let me just demonstrate you how to configure this neighborship. So just let me open this console of R1. Let me just configure the console. So as you can see, router 1 serial 1/0 is connected to R2 serial 1/0. So first let me assign the IP addresses for the interface. In this case, don't forget to execute no shutdown command. Alright. So at R1 we have only one interface to configure, so we assign. Now let me enable the BGP process. The command is router BGP. Now after this you can do question mark. So as you can see, it will gives you an AS range, which is basically a 16-bit long entity. So you can choose any number out of this. So let me choose 100 as it is shown in the slide. Sorry, as it is mentioned in the diagram. Now from this diagram, as you can see, R1 is having only one neighbor, which is IBGP neighbor R2. And what is the IP for R2? It is from the same subnet, from the same link 10.112. So the command to configure the neighborship is neighbor. Then you can do, okay, now you should put the IP address of that neighbor interface, which is this. Now you should also tell your BGP router whether this neighbor belongs to the same AS or in different AS, so that the router will know whether I should make IBGP neighborship or EBGP neighborship. So in this case, this router R2 belongs to the same AS, so let me put the same AS number. And now let me configure the network also. So what network we have here? It is 10.110. Now to configure the subnet mask, the keyword is mask. So as it is 24. Now save your configs. So this is about R1's configuration. Let me go to R2. Now it is booting. Let me just do a no. Now let me assign the IPs for interfaces at R2. Don't forget to do no shutdown. Now let me assign the IP for the next interface as well, which is serial 11. What is IP there? sorry, I have done a mistake. Let me go back to, no, it's fine. Okay, now let me put IP for another interface, but in this case my subnet is 20. I think I forgot to configure clock rate here, so let me just put that one also. Alright, so we configured the IPs and all. Now let me configure BGP, since this router also belongs to the same AS. Now let me configure network. So on this router we have 10.110. Sorry, that mask keyword, don't forget to put. This is one network, and we have one more network which is 20. Now let me configure the neighbor. The first neighbor is router 1, 10.111. Now it also belongs to the same AS like R2. So remote AS number is 100. Now as you can see in the diagram, we do have one more neighbor, which is, as you can see in the console, the message came that your neighborship has been up. Now let me configure one more neighbor, which is 20.113. This 20.113 neighbor, but it is in different AS. So that AS is 200. So at R2 we have these two neighbors. Okay, I think we configured everything. Now if you want to check the neighborship whether it is working with R1 or not, you can do show IP BGP summary. This command will gives you a very good output. So as you can see, my neighborship with 10.111 is, if it is 0, it means it is working fine. Since we do not configure any of the prefixes, so the number of prefixes which we received from R1 is 0. But if it is active, it means something is wrong. So why it is showing here active for R3? Because we have not configured R3 yet. So let me go to R3 and configure it. So R3, I'm at R3. Let me just drag this little bit lower so that you can see the diagram as well. Let me assign the host name, which is R3. Now at R3 we have only one interface, serial 1/0. What is the IP there? IP is 3 with subnet mask 24, no shutdown, and yeah, clock. Now last job is to configure the BGP neighborship. Now what network? Okay, now R3 is only having one neighbor, which is R2. So what is the IP at R2 serial 1/1 interface? It is 20.112. So 20.112. Now that remote AS command, now my R2 belongs to AS number 100. So let me put 100. We'll see whether we can see the message. Here it is. As you can see, my neighborship is up and running, but this neighborship is my eBGP neighborship. So let me save this configuration and let me show you show IP BGP summary command. Alright, so as you can see in this output, If it is not active, means everything is working perfectly. So as you can see, I am getting 2 prefixes from R2. So seems to be working fine. Alright, so let me go back to R2 and show you what is the status there. Why? Because before it was active for router 3. So I'm at R2, and as you can see here in the console, as you can see that your neighborship with .3 is also up. So if you execute the same command which we executed before, but before it was active there, as you can see here, before the status with .3 was active, now this time it should be proper. So let me just put an enter. Okay, so as you can see, I have my neighborship working with both the router, with R1 also as well as with R3 also. But with R1 my neighborship is IBGP, and with R3 my neighborship is eBGP. So this was the lab, a basic lab, how to configure IBGP and eBGP neighborship. Thanks for watching this video.